still don't know why she laughed that way. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was the kind of laugh that slips through when you're not guarding yourself. But the words that followed, soft, teasing, almost too casual, have been running circles in my head ever since. How did you sneak into my heart? Of course, she said it like a joke, like something you toss out when you're not really thinking. But the thing is, sometimes the offhand things are the ones that stick. The first time I noticed her, I wasn't even supposed to be there. The shop had been understaffed, and my cousin begged me to cover a late shift. It was one of those quiet hours at the back of the bookstore cafe, half fluorescent light, half shadow from the rain sliding down the glass windows. The smell of coffee had gone bitter from sitting too long on the warmer. And then she walked in. She didn't storm in like someone trying to escape the rain. She drifted in like she'd already been here before. A mid-40s woman, shoulders squared, hair slightly damp, eyes that seemed to measure the room before resting on me. Not in a harsh way. More like she was quietly amused at finding me behind the counter. "You work here now?" she asked, one brow raised. I almost stumbled over my words. Not really. Just filling in." She gave a half smile, one of those practiced ones people use when they know you're younger but they don't want to make you feel small. I couldn't tell if it was kindness or distance. Maybe both. She didn't order right away. Instead, she set her bag on the counter, smoothed the sleeve of her jacket, and leaned just close enough to scan the menu board overhead. I caught myself watching the way her fingers tapped lightly against the surface, impatient but graceful. "Do you even know how to make a cappuccino?" she asked without looking at me. Sort of, I admitted. "Depends how desperate you are." That made her laugh. The laugh that's been stuck in me since. Not loud, not sharp. More like something slipped out that she hadn't planned to give away. "Well," she said, still smiling, "I guess I'll take my chances." I tried. The foam was uneven, the cup too full. I wiped the edge clumsily before sliding it across to her. She took a sip, paused, and tilted her head like she was weighing whether to be honest or merciful. "It's drinkable," she said finally, setting it down. Her eyes lingered on mine a little longer than they needed to. Not in a way I could name. Just enough to make the silence suddenly heavy. I tried to fill it. "You come here a lot?" "Used to. When I had more time." She didn't explain. She didn't have to. She picked up the cup again, fingers brushing the sleeve I had just wiped, and for a second I wanted to say something else. Anything to keep her there. But the words didn't come. When she finally gathered her things, she looked back once. A glance that might have been nothing, or everything. And then, just before pushing open the door, she laughed again and tossed out that line, like it meant nothing at all. "How did you sneak into my heart?" The door shut, the rain swallowed her, and I was left staring at the uneven foam still clinging to the pitcher. That night, I kept replaying her voice in my head, like I missed something, or maybe wanted something. The next afternoon, I didn't expect to see her again. People pass through cafes all the time, strangers with faces that blur by the end of the week. But when she walked in, same jacket, hair swept back, this time without the rain. My chest tightened in a way I didn't want to admit. She spotted me immediately. A flicker of surprise crossed her face, followed by something else, something unreadable. "You again?" she said, setting her bag down on the same counter. "Shouldn't you be, I don't know, doing something better than making questionable cappuccinos?" I forced a laugh. Apparently, this is my calling now. She didn't order right away. Instead, she lowered herself into a chair by the window. The bookstore was quiet, just the hum of the air conditioner and the faint rustle of pages from a student in the corner. After a minute, she called over without looking up. "Mind bringing me whatever you think I should have today?" Surprised me. I hesitated. It was a small thing, but it felt like trust. Or maybe a test. I made her a simple latte, steadier this time. As I set it down on her table, I noticed the folder open in front of her. papers stacked with messy handwriting, corrections in red ink. My eyes caught a sentence before I could stop myself. Final review draft, counseling program. You're a teacher? I asked before I could bite it back. Her lips pressed into a line, not annoyed, but cautious. Professor. Psychology. Then softer. But I don't usually bring work here. For a moment, she seemed smaller somehow. Tired. The practice poise from yesterday slipped, and I noticed how her shoulders curved inward, how her hand lingered on the rim of the cup like she needed the warmth. Long week? I asked. She gave a half smile. Long decade. I wanted to ask more, but something in her tone told me to stop. Instead, I sat down across from her without thinking. It was reckless. I was just some guy covering a shift. She was twice my age, and clearly carrying things I couldn't name. Still, I stayed. She didn't tell me to leave. Up close, I saw details I'd missed before. The faint crease near her eyes when she studied the page too long. The way she brushed her thumb over her coffee before lifting it, almost like a ritual. She looked composed, but there was a heaviness beneath it. You remind me of someone, she said suddenly, breaking the silence. Good thing or bad thing? She didn't answer right away. Her eyes lingered on me, then dropped to her notes. Dangerous thing, she murmured. The word sat between us, heavy. My throat tightened, and I almost asked what she meant, but she closed the folder as if sealing it away. When she stood to leave, I thought the moment had passed. But then she paused, turned back, and touched my arm lightly, just enough to make me feel the warmth of her hand. Stay a little longer, she said quietly. I don't want to sit alone today. And suddenly, the air between us wasn't quiet anymore. It was charged, like the pause before a storm. I told myself I should have walked away. She only asked me to stay because she didn't want to sit alone. That's what I kept repeating. But the truth was I didn't move. I stayed in that chair across from her, watching the way her eyes avoided mine, watching her thumb circle the edge of her cup until the foam collapsed into nothing. You don't talk much, she said after a long pause. I shrugged, forcing a crooked smile. I usually say the wrong thing. Her laugh was soft, but not careless this time, almost like she wanted to believe me. Then maybe silence suits you. It was nothing, just conversation. Yet every word felt like stepping onto thinner ice. I asked her about the papers she'd been working on. She didn't go into detail, but the edges of her story came out. A failed project, too many students who reminded her of roads she hadn't taken. Something about the way she said, I used to think I had time lodged in me like a splinter. She looked up suddenly, as if realizing she'd said too much. Her eyes flicked over my face, searching for judgment. I didn't give her any. I just nodded. That was when her hand brushed mine. Accidentally, I think. She was reaching for her folder, but the warmth of her skin stayed longer than it should have. I wanted to say something, anything, to break the tension. But before I could, her phone buzzed sharply against the table. She glanced at the screen, her expression tightening. Without answering, she flipped it face down. Everything okay? I asked. Her silence said more than words. When she finally spoke, it was low, almost to herself. Some calls aren't worth taking anymore. I didn't ask who it was. The question hung there anyway. The air between us felt different now, heavier, as if the room had shrunk to just the two of us. I leaned back, tried to pull away from the current pulling me toward her. She's twice your age. She's a professor. This isn't yours to want. But then she looked at me, really looked, and it was like she could see every thought I was trying to bury. You're too quiet again, she said. I swallowed. Maybe I don't trust what I'd say if I spoke. Her lips parted just slightly, but no sound came. For a second, I thought she might close the distance. Or maybe I might. And then, excuse me, ma'am? The student who'd been in the corner stood near our table, holding a book. You dropped this earlier. He handed her a pen she hadn't noticed slipping from her folder. She thanked him quickly, her voice sharper than it needed to be. The moment shattered, but the pieces still glowed in my chest. When the student left, she leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "You were about to say something, weren't you?" I froze. The words sat heavy on my tongue. If I said them, there'd be no going back. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I wanted to go back. The bookstore cafe had emptied out by evening, chairs stacked in the corner, lights dimmed to a softer glow. Only one lamp near our table cut through the shadows, leaving the rest of the room hazy, unfinished. She hadn't moved for a while. Neither had I. The untouched dregs of her latte had gone cold, but she was still holding the cup, both hands wrapped around it like she needed the anchor. "You shouldn't be here this late," she said finally, eyes fixed on the table. "I could say the same to you." Her mouth curved, but it wasn't a smile. "You don't know what you're inviting," saying things like that. The words caught me off guard. My chest tightened. I should have laughed it off, turned it into a joke. Instead, what came out was rawer than I meant. "Maybe I do." Her eyes lifted then, sharp and unblinking. For the first time, I felt the full weight of her. Every year she'd lived, every secret she hadn't told. The silence after my words was unbearable. She leaned forward, elbows on the table, and whispered, "You have no idea what kind of mess I am." "I don't care," I said too quickly, and it startled me, hearing it out loud. My pulse jumped. I wanted to take it back, but I couldn't. Her laugh was short, bitter, almost breaking. "You say that now, until you see what it costs." Her hand drifted toward mine, stopped halfway, then pulled back. The hesitation hurt worse than if she'd never moved at all. I wanted to ask, why me? Why even talk to me? But instead, what slipped out was, "You don't have to carry it alone." Her head tilted, studying me. Her expression softened for the briefest second, then hardened again, as if she'd slammed a door shut inside herself. "You're dangerous," she murmured. I blinked. "Me? Yes, because you make me forget." She exhaled sharply, as though even admitting that much cost her something. The space between us was electric now, the kind of charge that begs for release. I felt myself leaning forward without realizing it, caught in the pull of her voice, her eyes, the trembling line of restraint between us. And then she whispered, so quietly I almost didn't catch it, "Tell me the truth. What do you want from me?" The room felt smaller. My throat was dry. Every part of me screamed to say it, to finally cross whatever line we'd been circling. Instead, I sat there, staring at her, my hands frozen against the table. I opened my mouth, closed it again. Her gaze locked with mine, steady and unflinching. Neither of us moved. Neither of us breathed. And in that suspended silence, I knew whatever I said next would change everything. I thought she was waiting for my answer. I thought that silence would break with whatever reckless truth I finally admitted. But she was the one who spoke first, her voice low and almost trembling. "You remind me of him." I frowned. "Of who?" Her eyes flickered away, as if she already regretted it. "My brother's son. My nephew. You're about his age." The words landed like a jolt. Suddenly the air between us wasn't just electric. It was dangerous in a new way. "You never mentioned family," I said carefully. She pressed her lips together, then let out a bitter laugh. "That's because we don't talk. Not anymore. Not since—" She stopped herself, closing the folder in front of her with a sharp snap. It doesn't matter. But it did matter. It explained the hesitation, the way she pulled back when I got too close. It wasn't just me she saw. It was someone else, tangled in old regrets she hadn't untied. I wanted to ask about him, about what had happened, but before I could, her phone buzzed again. This time she didn't silence it. She answered, her voice clipped. "Yes, I know. I'll handle it." A pause. No, not tonight. I said I'll handle it. She hung up before the other person finished speaking. Her hands trembled slightly as she set the phone down. Was that him? I asked softly. Her stare cut through me. Don't. But the way she said it told me I was right. The quiet that followed was heavier than any before. I felt like I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't see. You think I'm young enough to not understand, I said finally. But I'm not blind. You're carrying something. And maybe it's not mine to know. But you let me sit here anyway. Her jaw tightened. She looked like she wanted to push me away. But instead, her voice broke in a way I hadn't heard from her yet. I lost people I shouldn't have lost. I broke things I can't fix. And every time I sit here with you, I feel like I'm repeating the same mistake. The honesty in it hit me harder than any confession of love could have. I leaned forward, heart pounding. Then tell me what mistake I am. Her eyes snapped to mine. For a second, I thought she would say it, that I was just another substitute, another distraction she couldn't afford. But instead, she whispered, "You're the part one shouldn't want." The words cut and comforted at the same time. My chest ached, but I couldn't look away. Before I could respond, the door of the cafe creaked open. My cousin stepped in, keys jangling, eyes widening when he saw us still sitting there. "You're still here?" he asked. The spell shattered, but not completely. Because beneath the surface, everything had just changed. After my cousin left, the cafe felt different. Not quieter, but exposed. Like someone had yanked a curtain back and reminded us this wasn't a world that belonged only to us. She stood abruptly, gathering her folder, her phone, her bag. All too quickly, like she was packing away the mess she just spilled. "I should go," she said. I rose too, almost without thinking. "Wait." Her eyes flicked up, and I saw it. The fear, the hesitation, and underneath all of it, something that hadn't been there the first night. Longing. "You don't understand," she whispered. "This is dangerous for me." "For me too," I admitted, my voice rougher than I meant. She turned toward the door, but stopped halfway. Her shoulders were tense, like every step cost her. "You're too young," she said. "And I'm too," she trailed off. The word she didn't finish hung in the air. Too broken, too old, too guilty. I stepped closer, just enough that she could feel I wasn't retreating. "Maybe, but you don't get to decide what I feel. That's mine." Her laugh was short, bitter. "You'll regret this someday." "Then let me," I said. "Let me regret it. Or not. But stop pretending you don't feel it too." The silence between us cracked open. For once, she didn't hide behind half-smiles or sharp words. She looked at me, really looked, and I could see the tears threatening to rise. "I can't lose someone again," she said softly. Something in my chest twisted. "I'm not asking you to lose me. I'm asking you to let me be here." Her lips parted, but no sound came. She reached out, almost unconsciously, fingers brushing my sleeve. The smallest touch, but it felt like the weight of everything unspoken. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't a kiss. It was something heavier. "Promise me one thing," she said, her voice unsteady. "What?" "That you won't mistake this for forever." I hesitated, the words cutting deeper than I wanted to admit. But I nodded. "I can promise to be here now. That's all I've got." Her eyes softened then, just slightly. She exhaled, and for the first time, the line between us blurred. Not with reckless impulse, but with quiet surrender. She leaned her forehead against mine, just for a second. No words, no grand declarations. Just that closeness, fragile and real. When she pulled back, her hand lingered on mine. "We shouldn't, but we will, won't we?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The silence was enough. The way her gaze held mine like a question we'd already answered. For the first time, it wasn't about what might happen tomorrow. It was about this moment, raw, imperfect, and undeniable. And in that moment, I knew nothing between us would ever be the same again. The next time I saw her, it wasn't at the cafe. It was on the street, in the late afternoon sun, when people hurried past with grocery bags and office folders. She was standing outside the pharmacy, phone in one hand, the other shading her eyes as if searching for something in the distance. And when her gaze fell on me, she didn't look startled. She just looked calm. We walked together, slowly, without the shield of coffee cups or late-night quiet. The air felt different now. Less charged, more fragile, as though what had happened in that bookstore cafe was both too much and not enough. She spoke first. "I've been thinking about what you said, about being here now." I nodded, waiting. "I can't promise you forever," she said. "I won't. My life has too many cracks, too much history. But," she stopped, as if weighing whether she could give me even this, "but I can let you see me as I am. No more pretending." That was the closest thing to a confession I'd ever wanted. Not a grand declaration, just her truth. I told her mine in return. "Then let me carry it with you, even if it's just for a while." The silence that followed wasn't heavy this time. It was steady. She let out a breath, and for the first time since I'd met her, her smile wasn't guarded. It wasn't practiced. It was small, imperfect, but it was real. We didn't touch then. We didn't need to. The closeness wasn't about stolen moments anymore. It was about a strange kind of acceptance. Looking back, I realized it wasn't about age or rules or whatever line we nearly crossed. It was about the way two people can find each other in the middle of their own messes and still feel less alone. She had her regrets. I had my restless wanting. And somehow those pieces fit together just long enough to matter. No, we didn't become a love story people would understand. But that wasn't the point. The point was that, for a little while, she let me into the part of herself she thought she had locked away forever. And I learned that sometimes, what you carry isn't meant to be fixed. It's meant to be shared. I still hear her laugh sometimes. The first night, when she teased me about sneaking into her heart. Back then, I thought it was nothing. Now I know it was everything. Sparkle's moral and emotional payoff sometimes. The most meaningful connections aren't about permanence. They're about presence. About the way someone, even briefly, makes you feel seen in a world that usually looks past you.